Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our virtual Mishnah Berurah share. We're holding in Mishnah Berurah Chelik Gimel, and Mir Hashem. Today we will be learning Daf Lamed Daled Amud Aleph. We are continuing to learn Hilchos Shabbos. We pick up today on Lamed Daled Amud Aleph, second line down in the Shulchan Aruch, Siman Reish Samach Aleph Sif Gimel. Our learning should be a schus for Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael, HaNesunim Batzaro Bashivya HaImdim Bein Bayam Bein Bayabasha HaMakom Yerachem Aleihem VeYitzihem Mitzaro Lirvacha Me'afela La'ira Umishibur L'Geula Hashta Bagala Uvizman Kariv V'Naimar Amen. So, in Siman Reish Samach Aleph Sif Beis, the Mechaber went through with us the Zmanim, how we go from Erev Shabbos into Shabbos and when Shabbos begins. And the Mechaber told us that once we hit the Zman of Bein Hashmoshes is Safek Yom, Safek Laila. Bein Hashmoshes might already be Shabbos. It's Safek Laila. If it's night, that means Shabbos has already begun. Since Bein Hashmoshes is Safek Yom, Safek Laila, Malacha becomes Aser. If it's a Malacha Daraisa, so you're dealing with Safek Daraisa L'chumra. Even Isurei Darabanan become Aser during Bein Hashmoshes, unless there is Isurei Darabanan that are being done L'tzarech Mitzvah, or we had a couple of exceptions earlier in Reish Samach Aleph. But once you hit Bein Hashmoshes, for all practical purposes, really Malacha is Aser. When is Bein Hashmoshes? So the Shulchan Aruch told us, and the Shulchan Aruch was going according to the world of the Rabbeinu Tam. The Mechaber told us that Bein Hashmoshes is 58 and a half minutes after Shkia, 13 and a half minutes before Tzeis HaKechavim. Tzeis HaKechavim is the time that you could see three medium-sized stars in the sky. Once you hit Tzeis HaKechavim, that's Vadai Laila. That's certainly Shabbos. 13 and a half minutes before that is Bein Hashmoshes, this period of time that is Safek Yom, Safek Laila. Mishnah Berurah told us that we should be machmer like the Gra. The Gra disagrees, and it's not only the Gra, it's the Gra and many Rishonim disagree very strongly with the Shitas Rabbeinu Tam, and the Gra held that Bein Hashmoshes actually begins right after Shkia. So in our world, the way most of us are noyeg, for certain going into Shabbos, L'chumra, once we hit Shkia, we're already in the time of Bein Hashmoshes. Bein Hashmoshes, Malacha is Aser. Even Malacha D'Rabbanan is Aser, unless it's being done L'tzarech Mitzvah, and even that we're going to see is a little bit complicated. So certainly, it's very critical for us to know when we hit the time of Bein Hashmoshes. Now, for us nowadays, this doesn't sound like such a big deal. We're walking around with maybe phones that have the My Zmanim app. We have numerous types of, this luach and that luach. I mean, I have over here, I have my Zmanim luach, and I have my MTJ calendar, and I have on my watch what time Shkia is, what time Netz is, and what time Shkia is. We have clocks everywhere where we turn. I mean, just looking right now, I see very quickly 1, 2, 3, 4 clocks without even looking around too much. So to us, this doesn't sound like such a challenge. But back in the day, it certainly was a challenge. They weren't walking around with watches necessarily. They didn't have a microwave with a clock on it. They didn't have all of these luchais and everything else. So being cognizant of the time was a much greater challenge. And that's where Reish Samach Aleph Sif Gimel comes in, says the Mechaber. Mi she'enoi baki b'shir zeh. Someone who's not a baki to be able to tell precisely when Bein Hashmoshes begins. Let's say he paskins like the Gra, and he doesn't know exactly when sunset is. So he doesn't know when Shkia is. Or even he paskins like Rabbeinu Tam. He doesn't know when Shkia is, so he doesn't know when it's 58 and a half minutes later. He doesn't even know how to accurately count 58 and a half minutes. How's he supposed to know when we hit 13 and a half minutes before Tzeis HaKechavim and it's Bein Hashmoshes? So says the Mechaber, Mishein Abaki B'Sher Zeh, he'll give you a very easy answer. The sun. Yadlik B'Oid Sha'ashemesh B'Roi Shoyilanois. You know that Bein Hashmoshes is either when the sun sets or a while after the sun sets, but for certain, if the sun hasn't set yet, if you could still see the sun, it's not Bein Hashmoshes. So says the Mechaber, I'll tell you what you do. You know when you should light your licht? You know when you should finish doing all of your malacha? When the sun has reached the treetops. If the sun has reached the treetops, you know that you still have time until Bein Hashmoshes. Okay, then says the Mechaber, Ve'imu yoim ha'ma'unan. What do you do if it's a cloudy day? If it's a cloudy day, I don't know when the sun hits the treetops. Okay, he gives us another natural eitzah. Yadlik, you should light, and you should do all of your other malacha. Keshat tarnegoilin yoshvim al HaTorah min ba'od yoim. When the chickens go into their coop or the chickens go into the barn and they go up onto their roost, the Torah is the beam. When they go up on the rafters of the chicken coop or of the barn, then you know it's not yet Shkia, but you're getting very, very, very close. Or it's not yet Ben Hashmoshes, but you're getting very close. Very interesting. Chickens have a condition that we refer to as chicken blindness. Chickens cannot see at night. They see extremely, extremely poorly at night. So when it starts getting dark, the chickens don't feel safe. What do? They go home. So they go to their coop, they go to their barn, and chickens always look to roost somewhere high up. They want to be protected. So they don't want to be down on the ground. So if they're in a barn, they're going to go up while it's still light. They're going to go up to the rafters, and they're going to roost on the rafters. If you make them a coop, you have to make them a beam in the coop, a roost, something that they can roost on. So when the chickens go up to roost, you should make sure that you complete all of your malacha. Okay, says the Mechaber weiter. What if you're out in the wild and there are no chickens running around? Okay, take a look at the ravens. Ravens are wild birds. They're all over the place. So take a look at when the ravens go to roost. When the ravens go to roost, make sure you finish doing all of your malach. The Torah, HaKadosh, is very careful to give us shiurim of all types. And all of the shiurim that the Torah HaKadosh gives us are rooted in the world of nature. They're all rooted in things that are always around. So the Torah HaKadosh gave us zmanim that are dependent on the sun, because everybody could see the sun, or in the natural world, what happens with animals. Or we have shiurim like a kazayas, the size of an olive. I always laugh when I remember the time when a young bacher came into my Rebbe, Rebbe Feinstein, came into his office talking to him about the shir for Ala Michya, and said something about a kazayas, so it's the size of an olive. Yeah, but what does the size of a kazayas have to do with an olive? I mean, it's not really an olive, right? Well, yeah, it is an olive. That's what kazayas means. It's the size of an olive. It's not just an abstract term. Okay, let's see the Mishnah Berurah here. It says the Mishnah Berurah is Katan Chavav. The Mechaber told us that we should cease to do malacha when the sun reaches the treetops. Barosha ilonois, oi barosha hagagois hagavoyim. What do you do if you live in the city? Forget when the sun hits the treetops. You can't even see the treetops, no trees. So take a look at the high roofs, the high rooftops. When the sun is at the level of the high rooftops, stop doing malacha. What do you do if it's a cloudy day? So the Mechaber said, if it's a cloudy day, you use a different Siman. So you use the chickens. There are no chickens. You use the ravens. Says the Mishnah Berurah, very negay to us. If you have an accurate clock, if you have an accurate watch, if you know what time sunset is and you have an accurate clock, you can go ahead and you could rely on a clock. It's always very interesting to me because growing up years ago, what did you rely on? You relied on the clock. You looked at the luach. You saw what time it said in the luach. You looked at the clock. Now, the clock that you had on the wall in your house, you always strove to make sure that the clock was accurate. So every now and then you would adjust the clock if the clock needed adjusting. But we didn't have atomic clocks, and we didn't have watches that went on to Verizon time that are using atomic clocks and this and that. They had a clock. You had a clock. It was a wind-up. Maybe it had a battery. How many clocks did you have? You had 2 clocks in the house, or whatever it is. And you didn't even think about it. You looked at the Zman in the Luach on the calendar, and you looked at the clock, and you followed the clock. Now, this clock, this one has atomic time, this one, and did the atomic time get the signal? Did it not get the signal? The Mishnah Berurah is telling you over here that you could be Simach on a Meir Shois. You could be Simach on a clock that you know is working. So if you know it's a working clock, it is generally accurate, you could be Simach on it. And especially we have to remember from everything that we've seen over here, discussing the Zmanim, and I'm not saying this so that anybody should be chas v'chalila kal. We should not be kal. We should not be lenient when it comes to the question of what time Shabbos comes in. But at the same time, we can't go overboard in the other direction and become completely, totally paranoid. Remember that even if we paskin like the Gra, so we paskin like the Gra, so Ben Hashmashas starts at Shkia. So first of all, it's Ben Hashmashas. It's Suffolk. Okay, Suffolk Daraisa L'chumra, right? But also, according to Rabbeinu Tam, it's not even Ben Hashmashas yet. According to Rabbeinu Tam, 58 and a half minutes later is Ben Hashmashas, right? So you don't have to be, if you have a clock, you know what time Shkia is, and you look at the clock, and as far as you know, it's basically an accurate clock, you could be Simach on that. Okay, now we go to Sif Daled. So Sif Daled needs a little bit of a hakdama just to review some of the information that we've seen so far. So Shabbos automatically begins when it becomes a Vadai Laila Friday night, right? Yiddish calendar, the day starts the night before. So Friday night, when you hit Seis HaKoichavim, when you hit the time of 3 medium stars coming out, it is automatically Shabbos b'daraisa, because now it's Yom HaShvi, it's Yom HaShabbos now. So now there's automatic Shabbos. All right. Sometime before that begins Ben Hashmashas. According to Rabbeinu Tam, 13 and a half minutes before Ben Hashmashas. According to the Gra, a while before Shkia, that's already starts Ben Hashmashas. Ben Hashmashas, Suffolk Yom, Suffolk Laila. You want to do Malacha Daraisa, light a candle, light a flame, do Bishul Midaraisa. It's Aser. Why is it Aser? It's Aser Misuffolk. It's Aser because it's a Suffolk. Maybe it's already Shabbos, maybe it's not. Suffolk Daraisa, L'chumra. Isurei Derabanan, we learned that Isurei Derabanan are also Aser during Ben Hashmashas with a Kula. If there's an Isur Derabanan that you need to do L'tzarich Mitzvah, that's mutter Ben Hashmashas. What would be an example of Isur D'Rabbanan that you need to do L'tzarich Mitzvah? Amir Lakum, you forgot to turn on a light. You forgot to put on the air conditioning. You forgot to light a flame. So this would be Amir La'akum. So Amir La'akum L'tzarich Mitzvah, that's an Isur D'Rabbanan L'tzarich Mitzvah. We learned that would be mutter Ben Hashmashas. Now there's a caution on that. That's not, don't take that as halacha l'maisa. Oh, I heard on the shir that an Isur D'Rabbanan l'tzarich mitzvah is mutter during Ben Hashmashas. Not so quick. But Isurei D'Rabbanan, generally speaking, 30,000 feet, what we learned so far, Isurei D'Rabbanan l'tzarich mitzvah are mutter during the Ben Hashmashas period. Now, there's a mitzvah of Tais V'Shabbos. In order to be mekayim the mitzvah of Tais V'Shabbos, you have to be Makabel Shabbos earlier than Bein Hashmashas. We learned there's a mitzvah saseh, learned out from the pasuk by Yom Kippur. There's a mitzvah saseh of Tais V'Shabbos. You have to be Moisef Michael al HaKodesh. Now, in order to be Moisef Michael from the weekday al HaKodesh, you have to know that the time that you're adding on to Shabbos, you have to know for certain that is Vadai Chol. So you can't use Ben Hashmashas for Tais V'Shabbos because maybe Ben Hashmashas already is Shabbos. So for Tais V'Shabbos, you have to use a period of time that is for certain. It is a Vadai Chol. So you've got to back up before Ben Hashmashas. So sometime before Ben Hashmashas, you have to be Makabel Shabbos in order to be Mekayim Tais V'Shabbos. Okay, how early can you be Makabel Shabbos? So we learned in the Ramah. The Ramah told us that you could be Makabel Shabbos after Plag HaMincha. Could you be Makabel Shabbos 11 o'clock in the morning, Friday morning? No, that's not a valid Kabbalah Shabbos. It wouldn't be efficacious at all. It would be worthless. You have to be Makabel Shabbos after Plag HaMincha. Because after Plag HaMincha is already going into the evening, it's already going into the night, that's when already you could be Makabel Shabbos. All right. When is Plag HaMincha? So, going back to the world of, well, here it gets even more complex than the world of Rabbeinu Tam. Plag HaMincha is an hour and 15 minutes, either before Shkia, according to the Gra. According to the Gra, Plag HaMincha is an hour and 15 minutes before sunset, before what we call Shkia. According to the Magen Avram, Plag HaMincha is an hour and 15 minutes before Tzeis HaKechavim. We, of course, are going to go l'chumrah, and we're going to say that if you are Makabel Shabbos an hour and 15 minutes before Mincha, like Shitas HaGra, that's after Plag HaMincha, your Kabbalah Shabbos is efficacious. So in our world, when we talk about being Makabel Shabbos after Plag HaMincha, we usually mean after an hour and 15 minutes before Shkia. That's how early you could be Makabel Shabbos. You could be Makabel Shabbos an hour and 15 minutes before Shkia. Now, we also learned in the Biur Halacha, quoted from the Pri Megadim, that there are different levels here. If you're Makabel Shabbos between Plag HaMincha and Shkia, then you have taken on Shabbos mid'Rabbanan. If somebody chas v'chalila would do malacha then, it would be an Issa d'Rabbanan. If you're Makabel Shabbos after Shkia, or you were Makabel Shabbos before Plag, but now it's already after Shkia, so now it's already maybe Bein Hashmashos, but it's already after Shkia, now your Kabbalah Shabbos is a Daraisa. But what Daraisa is it? It's the Daraisa of Tosfos Shabbos. So you're Makabel Shabbos, your Kabbalah Shabbos is efficacious, even with Daraisa, but if somebody would do Malacha then, he would be over on an Aseh. It wouldn't be an Issa Skila, it wouldn't be an Issa Krisus. You wouldn't be Chai V'chatos if you did a Peshoyeg. It would be a Bittul Aseh. You were Makabel Shabbos to be B'kayim Tosfos Shabbos, and now you're being over on your Mitzvah Aseh of Tosfos Shabbos by doing Malach. Okay, now, to take a step back for a minute, we have said that once Bein Hashmashos comes, Malacha is Aser. Malacha d'Rabbanan, Isurei d'Rabbanan, are mutter l'tzorich mitzvah. All right. How about somebody who made Shabbos early? So somebody was Makabel Shabbos after Plag. It's after Plag. It's not even Ben Hashmashos. Maybe it's a long time before Ben Hashmashos. Plag HaMincha is an hour and 15 minutes before Shkia. So even according to the Gra that Ben Hashmashos starts at Shkia, it's an hour and 15 minutes before Shkia. But it's after Plag. So his Kabbalah Shabbos works. What's the status of that period now when it comes to Isser Malacha? Now, on the one hand, you would be tempted to say that this period of time should be more kal, it should be more lenient than Ben Hashmashos. After all, Ben Hashmashos is Sveika Daraisa. It's Suffolk Laila. Maybe it's already Shabbos. This time period, you are Makabel Shabbos after Plag HaMincha, an hour and 15 minutes before Shkia, it's not Suffolk Laila, it's for sure Yom. It's a Vada Yom. And your Kabbalah Shabbos, we're saying that your Kabbalah Shabbos is Midrabanan. So you would be very tempted to say that when it comes to the Isser Malacha, the Isser Malacha should be more kal when you're Makabel Shabbos after Plag than it should be during the Ben Hashmashos period. Is that true? We're going to see that it's not true. But it's a little bit dependent upon the format in which you are Makabel Shabbos. So I've given you a lot of information. Maybe I gave you just enough information to be confusing, I'm not sure. But against this backdrop, let's take a look here at Sif Dalet, 2 lines off the bottom, on Lamed Dalet Lamed Aleph. The beauty of this style of shir is that you could always rewind and you could always listen to it again. You could take out a pen and paper, you could listen to it again, you could write some bullet notes. If you think I don't have bullet notes, you would be wrong. I have bullet notes too. Okay, says the Mechaber here, Sif Dalet. Achar anias baruchu. After you answer baruchu to Ma'ariv. What is this talking about? This is talking about somebody who's making Shabbos early, b'tzibur. Somebody is part of a tzibur, and they have an early Shabbos minyan. So they're davening Ma'ariv after Plag. They davened Mincha before Plag HaMincha, when it was Yom. They're davening Ma'ariv after Plag HaMincha, when according to Rabbi Yehuda, it's already Laila, and you could already daven Ma'ariv. So somebody is now being Mekabel Shabbos early, and he's doing it B'tzibur after Plag HaMincha. And they're davening Ma'ariv, and he just answered Baruch Hu. Says the Mechaber, Achar Anias Baruch Hu, once you answer that Baruch Hu to Ma'ariv Friday night after Plag, Af al Pisha Adayin Yom Hu, even though this time period is Vada Yom. It's after Plag, but it's before Shkia. It's not Ben Hashmashas. There's still plenty of time to Ben Hashmashas. According to the Grud, there's an hour and 15 minutes here to Ben Hashmashas. But you already answered Baruch Hu. Ein Ma'arvin, you're not allowed to make your Ruvei Chatzeros, even if you need it. It's Tzarech Shabbos, and maybe it's a Tzarech Mitzvah. Maybe you need it in Ruvei Chatzeros. You should be able to take your Gemara to the Daf Yomi Shir. Ein Marvin, you're not allowed to make a Ruvei Chatzeros. Ve'ein Taimnin, you're not allowed to do Hatmana, even Hatmana B'davar She'ena Ma'aseh Hevel, which is usually mutter on Erev Shabbos. And not only that, Hatmana is mutter during Ben Hashmashas. Hatmana B'davar She'ena Ma'aseh Hevel is mutter during Ben Hashmashas, because we're not chayshish that you're going to find your pot cooled off and you might come to stoke the coals. But you were Mekabel Shabbos B'tzibur, you answered Baruch Hu after Plag HaMincha, Hatmana is also, even with the Davar She'ena Ma'aseh Hevel. Why? Mishum duhu kablei l'Shabbos alei. Because you were already Mekabel Shabbos. You were Mekabel Shabbos B'tzibur, now everything becomes aser. What we're seeing over here, and we'll see it spelled out in the Mishnah Berurah, the Mishnah Berurah is going to tell us, you are Mekabel Shabbos after Plag B'tzibur, this time period is now going to be more chamor than Ben Hashmashas. Ben Hashmashas, Hatmana is mutter. Ben Hashmashas, I just like to double check when I say things like that. Yeah, time ninas achamin. So Hatmana is mutter Ben Hashmashas. You are Mekabel Shabbos B'tzibur after Plag. It's still Oid Yom. It's before Ben Hashmashas. Hatmana is aser. Isurei derabanan l'tzarich mitzvah are mutter Ben Hashmashas. Isurei derabanan l'tzarich mitzvah after your Mekabel Shabbos after Plag are aser. So very interesting. This time period, if you're Mekabel Shabbos B'tzibur after Plag, even though you have plenty of time to Ben Hashmashas, that's more chamor than Ben Hashmashas. Continues the Mechaber here, and he just a little bit just technical. The Mechaber spoke about Anias Baruch Hu. He said, what's the critical factor over here? You answered Baruch Hu. Uladidan, but to us, says the Mechaber, heavy amiras mizmar shir liyom HaShabbos, kanias Baruch Hu lididu. When we speak about answering Baruch Hu, that was in the time of Chazal. In the time of Chazal, answering Baruch Hu to Ma'ariv Friday night, that's what constituted Kabbalah Shabbos. But already in the time of the Mechaber said, by us, it comes earlier than Baruch Hu. It's once you say Mizmar Shir L'Yom HaShabbos. You said Mizmar Shir, you already mentioned Shabbos, that's already your Kabbalah Shabbos. The Magen Avraham is going to say, by us, it goes back even earlier, because we have the minig of saying Kabbalah Shabbos, we have the minig of saying L'Chadaydi. So by us, once you say Boi V'Shalom, you say Boi V'Shalom, Ateres Bala, etc., that's Kabbalah Shabbos, already by Boi V'Shalom. Okay, now let's see the details over here. Let's get a little bit more into the weeds with the Mishnah Berurah. Says the Mishnah Berurah Kal Chavches, Anias Baruch Hu. What does Anias Baruch Hu have to do with Kabbalah Shabbos? Says the Chavetz Chaim, Mishum dehu haschalas tfilas arvis shel Shabbos. Because Baruch Hu is the beginning of Ma'ariv Friday night. Well, if it's Friday night and you're davening Ma'ariv, that means it's Shabbos. So once you say Baruch Hu, you start davening Ma'ariv Friday night. That means you want Mekabel Shabbos. Lekach hakol Persian ozmi malacha. So everybody's going to start doing malacha because it's Shabbos. Ukid lekaman the Siman Reish Samat Gimel Sif Yud. Dehu kimni shekibel alav kedusha shashabbos beferish. Once you answer that Baruch Hu at the beginning of Ma'ariv Friday night, that constitutes a Kabbalah Shabbos beferish. V'aser oz bechol hasyagim v'hagederim shegadru chazal l'Shabbos. You're Mekabel Shabbos already with that Anias Baruch Hu, or with Mizmar Shir, or with Bayev Shalom, by Ma'ariv, by Kabbalah Shabbos, after Plag HaMincha, everything becomes Aser. All Isurei D'Rabbanan become Aser. Kigoyin, for example, Lichnais LaMerchatz LaHazia Ba'alma. Back in the day, they didn't have their indoor plumbing. They had a bathhouse. Now, there were different reasons people would go to a bathhouse. Somebody might go to the bathhouse to take a bath. Somebody might go to the bathhouse to take a shower. Somebody might go to the bathhouse because it's a sauna. You have all of the hot water there in the baths and in the showers. It's all steamed up. So the Beis HaMerchatz was also a sauna. Boy, in this season that I'm recording this share in, everybody's been hit with this virus that's been going around with pneumonia. So many people, everybody I talked to, oh, my husband, oh, my wife, oh, my son, oh, my daughter, everybody was touched by it seems. So maybe they're going into the Beis HaMerchatz to breathe in the steam. Now, let's spend just a couple of seconds over here speaking about the Isser of Rechitza on Shabbos. Technically speaking, if you heated up hot water on Erev Shabbos, and now you want to go take a bath in the hot water on Shabbos, really, why exactly should that be Aser? What malacha is there going on here? There's no malacha. What malacha is there? Chazal asered taking a hot bath or a hot shower, even using water that was heated up on Erev Shabbos. Why? Because a person might go to the Beis HaMerchatz and take a hot bath or a hot shower. Yeah, I heated it up before Shabbos. But really, he's going to heat it up on Shabbos. So they asered taking a hot bath or a hot shower on Shabbos with water that was heated up on Erev Shabbos, or somebody might come to heat up the water on Shabbos. But they went another step even further. How about somebody says, oh, I'm not going to the Beis HaMerchatz to take a bath. I'm not going to the Beis HaMerchatz to take a shower. I'm going to the Beis HaMerchatz for the Schwitz. So I'm not even taking a shower. I'm not even taking a bath. When Chazal asered the Rechitza, they also asered going into the Beis HaMerchatz for the Schwitz. Because that was also, somebody could say, well, what are you doing going into the Beis HaMerchatz? Oh, I'm not, I know it's an Issa D'Rabbanan to go take a hot shower or a hot bath. No, I went into the Beis HaMerchatz just for the Schwitz. So the Chazal said, no, we're answering that too. So the Beis HaMerchatz is off limits. You can't go take a shower, you can't go take a bath, you can't go take a Schwitz. You can't do anything. The Beis HaMerchatz is awesome. So says the Mishnah Berurah over here, I'm telling you that all Isurei D'Rabbanan kick in once you're Mekabel Shabbos with a tzibur after Plag. Kigoyin Lichnais LaMerchatz LaHazia Ba'alma. You're not allowed to go into the Beis HaMerchatz for the Schwitz. The Cholshkein Berechitza B'chamin, certainly you can't go into the Beis HaMerchatz to actually take a bath or a shower in hot water, because that was the Iker Gzera. The Iker Gzera was to aser taking a bath or a shower with hot water that was heated up on Erev Shabbos. The Schwitz was kind of secondary. Ukahai Gavda B'chol HaShvusin. All Isurei D'Rabbanan are going to be aser once you're Mekabel Shabbos with a tzibur after Plag HaMincha. And we're going to mention one exception to this rule. Uba Mechaber LaHashmienu. The Mechaber over here in Sif Dalet is coming to teach us. Da'afilu oisan dvarim shehitiru bebein hashmashos. Even those things that we said are mutter during ben hashmashos. Kigoyin eruve chatzeros. We said that you're allowed to make eruve chatzeros during ben hashmashos. We learned that earlier in the Siman. We said eruve chatzeros is not considered such a major tikkun. It doesn't look like tikkun moneh, because the whole isser of transferring between the house and the chatzar is an isser d'Rabbanan. So we don't see it as such a major tikkun when you make it eruve chatzeros. So you're allowed to do it even during ben hashmashos. But are you allowed to do it once you're Mekabel Shabbos with a tzibur after Plag? No, you're not. V'hatmana, or hatmana. Hatmana is mutter during ben hashmashos with a davar she'ena moisef hevel. Are you allowed to do hatmana with davar she'ena moisef hevel after you Mekabel Shabbos with a tzibur after Plag? No, you're not. Tehu bevadei l'tzareh Shabbos, in the hatmana, there would be a very strong reason to be matir it. It's definitely tzareh Shabbos. It's tzarech mitzvah. It's for the mitzvah of Suda Shabbos, and that would be mutter during ben hashmashos. But you're Mekabel Shabbos with a tzibur after Plag, even though it's a long time before Ben Hashmashos, it's aser. V'hu adin kol shvus shu l'tzarech mitzvah afilu hachi aser kan. Even though an Issa D'Rabbanan l'tzarech mitzvah is mutter during Ben Hashmashos, It's usher once you're Makabel Shabbos, you have to plug with a tzibur. V'atam, and the reason is, the kevan the kibbutz of Shabbos beferish. Once you're beferish Makabel Shabbos, av shehuz man harbe koydem ben hashmashos, even though it's a long time before ben hashmashos, chamor bi ben hashmashos b'li kabbalah. That is more chamor than during ben hashmashos without a kabbalah. Being Makabel Shabbos beferish after plag is more chamor than the arrival of ben hashmashos when it's Safik Yom and Safik Laila. Now, there's one glaring exception to this rule that I'm still a little bit puzzled why the Mishnah Berurah doesn't spell it out over here. And that is, if you look at Lamed Beis, Amid Beis. Yeah, if you look at Lamed Beis, Amid Beis, and this was in Reish Samach Aleph, Sif Aleph, in Mishnah Berurah Ois Cotton Yud Zayin, we see over there that even if you're Makabel Shabbos with a tzibur after plag, Amira la'akum is mutter, even shaloi l'tzarech mitzvah. That's spelled out very clearly if you review Mishnah Berurah's Ois Cotton Yud Zayin and Ois Cotton Yud Ches. I'll read to you two pertinent lines from Mishnah Berurah's Cotton Yud Zayin. Even following the psak that we just learned in Sif Dalet, Da'acha Kabbalah Shabbos also laver afilu al shvus b'makom mitzvah. Even though in Sif Dalet we say that once you're Makabel Shabbos with a tzibur after Plag HaMincha, Isurei D'Rabbanan become aser even l'tzarech mitzvah. Mikam makom l'inyan amira l'eini Yehudi loy machmerinon tfei mi ben hashmashos. But amira la'akum is not going to become more chamer. And if you look at Ois Cotton Yud Ches, you'll see that over there, they're talking about somebody who was Makabel Shabbos with a tzibur. Okay. Now, against this backdrop, says the Chavetz Chaim in the brackets over here, Ulefizeh, now that we see this, now that we see that once you're Makabel Shabbos with a tzibur, it becomes so chamer that even all Isurei D'Rabbanan kick in, even l'tzarech mitzvah, ulefizeh, lo yitzuyar HaTorah de ben hashmashos hanal, le'inyan eruv chatzeres v'atmana u'kai gavna, this heter that we learned, that during ben hashmashos, Isurei D'Rabbanan amutar l'tzarech mitzvah, says the Chavetz Chaim, it's kemat not negeya. We're saying that during ben hashmashos, Isurei D'Rabbanan l'tzarech mitzvah mutter. During Ben Hashmashos, Hatmana with the B'davar Sheda Ma'aseh Hevel is mutter. During Ben Hashmashos, Eruv Chatzeres are mutter. You are Makabel Shabbos with a tzibur after plag, that's more chamer, it becomes aser. Says the Mishnah Berurah, once we have that fact, once you're telling me that if I'm Makabel Shabbos with a tzibur after plag HaMincha, all of these things become aser, then this heter during Ben Hashmashos is kemat not negeya. Because says the Mishnah Berurah, how could it be negeya? It's only negeya rakim hu b'makom shein sham tzibur. It's only negeya if you went away for Shabbos to the Poconos and you're all alone and there's no tzibur. So you're not being Makabel Shabbos with a tzibur at all. So you're not tied to a tzibur. In that case, all right, you hit Ben Hashmashos, you aren't Makabel Shabbos with a tzibur, and there's no tzibur around you that you should be tied to, that we should say that you're nigrar after the tzibur. So all right, with the arrival of Ben Hashmashos, Isurei D'Rabbanan l'tzarech mitzvah mutter. But the ilavachi, if you're not all alone in the Poconos or in Montana, bevadai roiv hatzibur kiblu kfar Shabbos beben Hashmashos. Then wherever you are, the tzibur was already Makabel Shabbos by Ben Hashmashos. Every tzibur is Makabel Shabbos before Ben Hashmashos. You have to be Makabel Shabbos before Ben Hashmashos because of Tais for Shabbos. So wherever you are, every tzibur was already Makabel Shabbos before Ben Hashmashos. And if that's true, you're a miut, you're nigrar after the tzibur. So it's as if you were Makabel Shabbos with the tzibur. If you were Makabel Shabbos with the tzibur, if it's already Ben Hashmashos, it's certainly after Plag HaMincha, so then Isurei D'Rabbanan become aser, even in L'tzarech mitzvah. Hatmana becomes aser, Eruv Chatzeres becomes aser. So says the Mishnah Berurah, this heter of Isurei D'Rabbanan L'tzarech mitzvah, of Hatmana, of Eruv Chatzeres, during Ben Hashmashos, kemat not negeya. And that's why I was hedging at the beginning of this year, where I said, Not so fast. U'kemoisha kosev Siman Reish Samach Gimel Seifim Yud Beis V'Yud Gimel Ayin Sham. V'ayin b'Biur Halacha, he says, take a look at the Biur Halacha where we tackle a thorny shaila. B'Shem Harbe Achreinim, in the name of many Achreinim Shekasu who write. The Dafka Yidei Baruch Hu Shu Kabbalah Shabbos Shel Tzibur. This whole halacha is only when you makabel Shabbos together with the tzibur. Avalim yachid kibel alav Shabbos b'ba'odyim. But again, if you have a yachid, people take all these crazy vacations nowadays, which I don't understand, but I'm not going to rant and rave. They go places, who knows what, when, where, how. And there's no minyanim, and there's no laning, and there's no anything for a whole Shabbos. All right. Avalim yachid kibel alav Shabbos b'ba'odyim. A yachid who's makabel tzibur all alone, I'm sorry, I misspoke. A yachid is makabel Shabbos all alone, without any tzibur anywhere, and he does it after plag, he doesn't get this chumrah. That now, since he was makabel Shabbos, he's surei d'rabbanan l'tzarech mitzvah become aser. He's a yachid. A yachid, it doesn't bring that chumrah. V'chein mashmi mimagen Avram sifkat zayin. So says the Biur Halacha in the name of many Achrayim. If you have a shaila, you should ask a shaila. Okay, Ois Kat Chavtes. The Mechaber here in Sif Dalet said, we're talking about somebody who was Makabel Shabbos with a tzibur with Anias Baruch Hu, even though it's a Dayin Yoimhu, even though it's still day. The Mishnah Berurah here in Chavtes defines what time period we're talking about. We're talking about a time that's a Vada Yoim. It's still a long time before Ben Hashmoshes. But Kol Shuach Plag HaMincha, if it's after Plag HaMincha, so then that Kabbalah Shabbos is going to be efficacious. And if you do it b'tzibur, you're going to bring in these chumras. Ois Kat Lamed, and therefore Ein Ma'arvin, you can't make it a Ruveh Chatzeros. And by the way, if you take a look in Biur Halacha, Dibur HaMaschel, Ein Ma'arvin, you'll see right away the first three words, Hainu Iruveh Chatzeros. When we're talking about making an Erev here, we're talking about a Ruveh Chatzeros. Ois Kat Lamed, Aleph Ka'anias Baruch Hu. The Mechaber said, I told you that the key factor over here is answering Baruch Hu at the beginning of Ma'ariv. Then the Mechaber said that was back in the day, the time of Chazal. He said by him already, in the time of the Mechaber, it's already by saying Mizmor Shir. And the words of the Mechaber were that saying Mizmor Shir would be Ka'anias Baruch Hu. Says the Chavetz Chaim, Demistama Kevit Shamaskir Shabbos, because once you mention Shabbos, heavy Kabbalah, that's like a Kabbalah Shabbos. The Kosev HaMagen Avram, the Magen Avram wrote, Va'ata, and now in the days of the Magen Avram, the Hagen Loimer Mizmor Shir, the minig is to say Mizmor Shir. Va'afilu hachi oisin kalam malachas ad Baruch Hu. The Magen Avram said that in his time, yes, they said Mizmor Shir, but they still were noyig to do malacha until Baruch Hu. V'hainu kisha azman hu kaida ben hashmashas. Obviously, it must be that it was still before Ben Hashmashas. V'atam, and the reason is Mishum de me'ikara hachi kiblu alayu. The Magen Avram said, the Mechaber says that Mizmor Shir is a Kabbalah Shabbos like Baruch Hu. The Magen Avram says in his days it wasn't that way. Even though they said Mizmor Shir, everybody had the understanding that we're not being Makabel Shabbos with Mizmor Shir. We're not being Makabel Shabbos at the Baruch Hu. Ve'ed miskav de bazela Kabbalah. V'chol zeb is man Magen Avram. But says the Chavetz Chaim, that was true in the days of the Magen Avram. In our regions, Haminig kahayoim, the minig nowadays is miyad she'oimrim Mizmor Shir. As soon as people say Mizmor Shir, mekablen atzibur Shabbos halayu va'asu b'chol malachos afilu adayin hayom gadol. Once you say Mizmor Shir, that's it. You're Makabel Shabbos. But now, says the Chavetz Chaim, the kosev b'sefer derech chachma tehu adin b'mekayim shenei hagid loimer l'chadoidi. In places where the minig is to say l'chadoidi, or misayim boi kala, and they end off boi v'shalom, boi chala, boi kala, Shabbos malkasa, heavy Kabbalah Shabbos mamish. What is that? That's Kabbalah Shabbos. Hello? What are you saying? Boi kala, come, Shabbos hamalka, come. So, that's Kabbalah Shabbos. Va'ayin b'toisefes Shabbos. Okay. Well, that completes Siman Reish Samach Aleph. I hope everybody has gained a better understanding now, of the world of Zmanim, Now when people walk around and they talk about 72, the Rabbeinu Tam, the Gra, Ben Hashmoshes, Shkia, now you know a little bit more what it's talking about. Now when you see a Chassidish fellow davening mincha 45 minutes after Shkia, you won't look at him as if he's so totally crazy. You'll understand. He's going like Shitas Rabbeinu Tam. Shitas Rabbeinu Tam, 45 minutes after Shkia. It's mamish vada yoin. Ben Hashmoshes doesn't start until 58 and a half minutes after Shkia, according to Rabbeinu Tam. You'll understand why people are machmer not to do malach until 72 minutes after Shabbos. They're machmer on 72 because that's Shitas Rabbeinu Tam. Shitas Rabbeinu Tam is Tzeisek Echavim is 72 minutes after Shkia. All of these things now you gained a greater understanding of. You also understand now much better the whole question of making early Shabbos. What does this mean? When can you make early Shabbos? When can't you make early Shabbos? What does it mean to make early Shabbos? So, and again, the main goal is over here is you should have a deeper understanding of what's at play, and you should have an understanding of when you need to ask a shayla, when you don't need to ask a shayla, and how to discuss a shayla. Thank you so much for joining me for limud HaTorah. The source of limud HaTorah should be making on Sky Yisrael. The Rebbe Shem should send Yeshua for us, Parnas and Shidduchim to all those in need. We should be zeicher to see the B'Yisrael Tzedek, B'Meher V'Yameinu. Amen. Be well.